It's a key.
Hello again. Today I have another dimple log for you, but a special one, the ABUS EC700, like you can see on the left side. Not to mix up with the ABUS EC750 on the right side, even if they share the same name tag extra Classe. As you can see in the first view, the housing of the EC700 is way thicker than on the 750, as well the wording is slightly different. But the main difference is, additional to their 6 security pins, both lock share, the ABUS 700 has 4 active bottom pins as well. And the 750 has just passive key control pins in this case. You can see here the bitting of the 750, the 4 pins are bitted the same. And on the 700, those pins have different bitting, so here are the active ones. That means that you can tell what lock is it from the key. And yeah, what does it mean? We have 4 bottom pins on the 700, and those have weaker springs than the top pins. Also, the bottom pins are located in this way, that they are exactly over the top pins, and by default all of the bottom pins are overlifted. Additional to that, because there is no bottom pin on the first and on the last chamber, you can't even see them normally. And if you apply tension and try to pick this lock like every other dimple lock, you will maybe be able to set some of the top pins, but at some point the bottom pins will start binding and you are not able to release tension and get them back, so you could pick them without dropping all of the top pins. And when the top pins drop, they will automatically overlift the bottom pins again. So this is quite difficult to handle, and you have to build a special tool. I made this one out of a tensioner, and the idea behind this is that you insert this tool and angle this a bit so you overlift all of the top pins and make the bottom pins appear. And then you could use another tension tool if you have to tension it in the other direction. But you could then pick the bottom pins. You should expect a little false set after those are set correctly. And then you could slightly release tension so that the top pins that are overlifted in this example right now could come back, and then you could finish the lock after picking those. This is quite tricky because you have to switch tools quite a lot, and of course you have to build some. And additional to that, the drivers of this lock are all tapered drivers. Also there are tapered spools, and that makes it necessary to pick the pins several times. So you have to go through the lock and jiggle and test all of the pins again and again until you get this lock open. For the gutting and especially for the reassembling, I highly recommend to use shims. Otherwise it could be quite a mess. Before I start my complete picking attempt, I will show you through the Lockcam how the process looks like from inside, and I will separate this in picking the bottom pins and then picking the top pins separately in the Lockcam view. I hope you like my attempts of this very interesting lock, and yeah, have fun! Okay, in this example the tool is already inserted and I lift up all the top pins so the bottom pins appear. But the movement applies pressure in counterclockwise direction and the pins start binding in clockwise direction, so I have to use another tool to tension it. And then it's quite easy to pick. In my case the third pin is binding first, then the fourth, the second then, and the first one is the zero lift pin. And yeah, then you get the false set and this part is picked. So in this case I already switched the tension wrenches so we can focus on picking the top pins. All of them are tapered ones as said, so you have to apply quite high tension at some point. And very careful jiggle test and push all the pins, because you have to set them several times until they are stable over shear. In this case I have a zero left pin on the fourth position that makes the access even more difficult, as well as a nearly not reachable second pin because of the zero left pin of the bottom. Yeah, it's limited room to deal with, but all in all, nothing too special if you reach to this point. Try to pick the spools first and avoid the false set, because it's really tricky to get out there without dropping every pin. And the feedback is really low, so jiggle test it. Even if you don't feel it binding, it might be binding already, and yeah, this may take quite a while, but after certain time also this lock will open. So first of all, let's try out this unsuspicious looking key, and of course it's working very smooth. Then I'm gonna insert my custom tool to compress all top pins and get access to those tiny pins in the bottom. Okay, like this. Then I have to apply clockwise tension, and therefore I'm going to use this tension wrench. I have to operate those tools with one hand. And I will apply medium tension. And let's go. Okay, one feels okay. Two feels loose. Click out of 4. Something out of 3. And we got a little falset that indicates that those tiny pins are picked. Now we have to remove at first the custom tool, and therefore I will release slightly tension. Okay, like this. Then I have to use another tool to remove all the stuff and make room to access the top pins. Medium tension again, but increasing after the first pins are picked. Okay, number 1 is binding. Okay, feels good. Pin 2 is nearly inaccessible because of those bottom pins. I think it might be set. Okay. Three is binding. As we have tapered pins here, I have to push every pin several times. Okay, 3 feels okay. 4 feels okay. Oh. Tiny click out of 5. Click out of 6. Increasing the tension at this point. Okay, going through all pins, give them little touch. Six again, back to 1. 2 feels okay. 3 is okay. And we are open. Nice. Okay, that's it. Now let's cut this. As you can see, I'm gonna use my new pinning tray. Thanks to Captain Hook for this. And now, of course, we have to remove this nice clip first. Okay. I have never gutted this before, so this will be interesting. As we have to deal with top and bottom pins with no offset, it will be nearly impossible to get them out one by one, but we will see. Okay, I gave this lock a tiny twist. And let's hope for the best. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Little gutting disaster here. Okay, could be worse. Okay, now let's take a closer look at this nice core. Okay, here you can see the 6 chambers for the key pins, for the top pins, and on the opposite side the 4 chambers for the bottom pins. As you can see, the 4 chambers are on the same height and position as the top pins, so they are completely covered by them. Because of the first and last pin, you are not able to even see those tiny second row of pins at all. The core itself is a bit smaller, but there's nothing more too special about it. Now this will be tricky getting the drivers out. So now let's take a closer look at this lock body. Okay, I hope you can see the chambers for the top pins, and on the opposite side the tiny chambers for the bottom pins. And yeah, that's basically it. It looks like a normal housing, just a bit thicker in this part. And now let me prepare everything for close-up. So let's take a closer look at all those interesting guts. First of all, we have this smaller pins out of some dark metal. Regular pins, nothing special about them. Then let's take a look at those very tiny drivers. Okay, you can see this mini spring and this normal driver, and this driver is a little bit hollowed, so the tiny spring fits in there and everything can be very compact. The bottom row has no special security pins. All drivers look more or less the same. This is the tapered spool I found in the first and in the sixth chamber, and surprisingly there was a second pin down below. I can only guess that this might be for anti-bump protection or an overlift protection, something like this. This is a tapered pin, but this won't come into play, just the tapered spool. And all the other pins that are not tapered spools are tapered normal pins. Therefore you had to push every of those pins several times, and the feedback is much lower. And then surprisingly we have two different kind of springs in this lock. One longer and a bit thinner or thicker, I'm not sure, but obviously they are different, and that's another way to protect against bump keys and raking and some interesting attacks. Okay, that's the Abus EC700, a very interesting lock, and I think very underestimated because it's not mentioned often. The overlifting mechanism is really effective, and as you see, you have to build a special tool to attack it. You have to switch tension wrenches. You have to to think about a bunch of things. And also they added some additional security features like this anti-overlifting extra driver in the first and last place, and add two different kind of springs. That's very rare for locks like this. And yeah, of course the second row of pins is really clever designed, and this makes this easy looking lock really challenging. Interesting design and fun pick. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. See you soon and goodbye.